Hello. Hi, welcome to Visual Studio Toolbox. I'm your host, Robert Green, and joining me for today's live session is Matt Soucoup. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Robert. This is live. You didn't tell me that before we joined.
We are live,
We're
baby.
live.
Live.
All
We
right.
are
Yeah.
live. Yes.
Yes. Live TV.
I know that we had originally advertised that you and Shayne Boyer would be joining. That was because at the time we weren't sure who was going to be. So it's just you. So
Just me.
you and I will be talking about Power Platform and building web APIs. And this is the last in our little mini series that we've done on the Power Platform. We did a Toolbox episode with April Dunham, which was an overview of the Power Platform and kind of what role Visual Studio developers could expect. Then Greg Hurlman was on in part 2, and he showed us that you could build a web API, publish it to Azure, and have it be used in a Power app. And today we're going to drill down on that. And we're not just going to say, oh, here's a web API I built and published to Azure. Oh, look how easy it is to use. We're going to see how you actually do that. And the whole idea of this, so actually, this is a perfect question. Thank you, Fuel. We just talked about building web APIs. Is this low code? And the point we're trying to get across here is, yes, the Power Platform is a low-code environment for low-code developers, citizen developers, whatever you want to call them. And the idea is that you are able to quickly build apps. You got to talk to data. Some of the data is the connectors are built into the Power Platform. But the cool thing about it is that you can build a web API as a .NET developer and have that used in a Power app, which frees you up as the .NET developer from having to write the UI. Now, you might, but you don't have to. And it then gives you the opportunity to get additional apps built without you having to learn another UI stack, because there's more coming. And we'll have to learn, I want to save my UI stack building needs for Maui and Blazor and stuff like that. But you could build the web API and then hand it over to a Power App low code / citizen developer and say, look, you build the app, here's the API. What do you need in the API? I'm on the hook for that. And then you just go ahead and use it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's actually a really good explanation, Robert. And yeah, what you described is fusion development. And it's the same like when you're sitting down with, like, if I'm the citizen developer or the business professional, and like, so I know my domain, it's, let's say I'm an inventory specialist. I know it inside and out. And you're the IT person, you're the software developer, and that's what you do day to day. That's your life. But normally we work together, right? But then I say, here's my requirements. I need A, B, and C. Then you go off and running with it. But in this fusion development model, we are actually going to work together to develop the application where you can actually stay where you're comfortable in, and that's writing the web APIs, and interfacing with like Cosmos or interfacing with like SQL Server. And then I can make the user interface work exactly how I want by accessing your data on the back end. And we actually did a full learning path on Microsoft Learn with 5 modules on it that to kind of talk through this whole thing that we're going to show today in 60 minutes.
Yeah. Or it could be that you've already got the web API built, right? And so I built a Xamarin app that we use at home. My wife and I use at home. It's full Xamarin, which is awesome. And there's a web API sitting up in Azure. And maybe she comes to me and says, oh, there's too much going on in this app. I just need these 3 things. Now I could go and build another app, or I could say to her, this will be an interesting thing. We probably want to do this live, so it's recorded. I could say to her, oh, just go build it as a Power App.
Yeah.
And then it's the exact same API, right? Now I'll probably need to do a little bit of coaching in terms of what calls in the API, or I might write additional calls in the API that abstract the complexity, but then she can go build the actual app, right?
Yeah. And actually we'll show that how we can actually document the API. We'll show that today and how it makes it easier for the citizen developer, the person building the Power App, to consume it. And we always call it low code to no code. I mean, no code, you're never going to build anything with 0 code. You're going to have to you're going to be typing something. And it's low code, and it's actually Power Apps are super duper powerful.
There's never been a great term for it. The best term ever, I think. The only really good term for it was access developer, because then everyone knew what that meant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, we've been searching for the right thing to say without being insulting, right? Yeah. You know, we're professional developers, which means these people are non-professional, they're amateurs.
Right.
No, not really, right? So whatever you call it is kind of irrelevant, but I think we understand good old access. I think, you know, we understand what we're talking about here.
Yeah, way back when, this is totally off topic though, about 10, 15 years ago, I worked in a company. I won't say its name though, but it used a Microsoft Access, but just the forms. It connected over to an Oracle database on the back end, and that's how they ran their entire manufacturing planning process. I mean, it didn't use the Access database at all. It was just a front end. It was like a fancy WinForms.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyways.
All right.
That's not what Power Apps is. So.
Okay. At this point, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. All right. So here is what we're going to be building today. So here's what we're going to be building today. It's going to be an app to see a bunch of vendors. So let's say you're a business professional and you want to order parts from various vendors. And so you're going to be able to load up the vendors, see some quick reviews on them, and add your own rating. So it's like internal Yelp or Google reviews or what have you for vendors. All right. And so we also want to, as our company, keep our own reviews on them on the back end, so we can, compile it, and, you can do some Power BI reporting off of it or whatnot. And so there's both a overall business need to have this data compiled, and also a citizen developer need to actually have an app that works for them and that they can use day to day, and it makes it super, super easy. This is what the app's going to look like with eventually some data in it, but this is just a scaffolding for it. And we'll end up building something here eventually. So I'm the business professional. I know what I want. I want to load up my vendors. I want to be able to see some reviews of them, and I want to be able to rate them. So I'm coming to the professional developer or the person who does this day in, day out, and I say just that. I just want to see I know we have that repository, and I want to see it, and I want to be able to add ratings. Cool. So let's go ahead and do that. So off to Visual Studio then. And so what I have here is just a regular old web API. And so what this does, it has two controllers in it. It has a vendor controller, and then over here it has a rating controller.
And I think that's a very important point right there. This is just a web API. This isn't a Power Apps style web API.
Right.
This is just a web API.
Yes. It doesn't do anything special. And what we're doing here is just like for this ad rating, or this over here in the Get All Vendors, I just have a really contrived data service. So let's actually go to, I'm running on a Mac, Robert.
Ooh,
on
cool.
a virtual machine, so it's really, really fancy stuff. So I don't have my keyboard shortcuts here. So where is my go-to implementation, right? Here we go. I have to do right click and then go everywhere. So anyways, so over here is just my real simple data service. It's all in memory. All I'm doing is loading up down here, a list of vendors. So just giving it a rating of them and the name. So it's just real basic stuff here. And then when you want to actually add a rating, going out and finding it, and then adding it. And you notice when I'm actually adding the rating to it, I'm putting in Toolbox just to say that we're on the show and we have it. So that's all. So we know that the rating came from us. So all right. So then let's actually just run this one and see what we're looking at. So I'm just going to run it locally here and let it start up. Build succeeded. And so one of the great things in Visual Studio 2019 is that it gets Swagger support built in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Swagger and OpenAPI, people kind of use them interchangeably. And so it's an OpenAPI document which describes the what the web API looks like. And so let's look at the Git one here, and let's bump up the. I wonder if it'll work for me doing this. Control plus. Oh yeah, here we go.
There we
All
go.
right. So what it does is that it's going to say, all right, I have two methods in here. I have my rating post and I have my vendor get. And so this open API document which is just a JSON document is showing me what I can get back from it. So it's saying, all right, you're going to get a string with a name and it has a ratings array in it. Mm-hmm. And it's going to have a rating and a review. And it shows me also my schema. So I have a vendor schema, which has an array of ratings, which is a vendor rating. So it kind of goes down like that. So which is cool is that this Open API schema now has this Swagger test harness around it. Mm-hmm. So Open API is the specification, Swagger is the tooling. So a lot of times, way back when, Swagger and Open API were the same thing. Now they're different things. That's what I'm trying to drive home here. But yeah. So what's also nice about this Swagger tooling is I just hit the try it out and I can then hit execute. It goes through and it hits our local service. And here you can see we got Cog City, Industrock, and Factory Train. All our vendors are coming through with our ratings. Cool. And perfect. I can then go ahead and do the same thing with our rating post. Hit try it out. I'm going to say vendor ID of 1. And then I'm going to add in a rating of, let's say, give it a 5. And I'll just say super cool. Go down here, hit execute. And what's neat is that it knows what it wants right away, right? It told me what it wants, what it's expecting. So that helps me with development as well. Go hit execute. And it comes back with Cog City and shows me everything in there. And then I see I have our new one right down here.
Right on.
Cool. Yeah, so that's the Swagger tooling gives me a nice, easy way to go through and testing. Like before, I would have to open up Postman or Insomnia or something like that to test. Now I have it. Yeah, our API is now working. Nice, but let's make it a little bit better, right? So if I go here, I go into the vendor. It just kind of says vendor, right? And it says, the response. I mean, it's kind of bare bones. As far as the what things coming back are, I mean, let's add some descriptions to it. It's because if you remember before, like we were talking about with your Xamarin app and the APIs behind it, we want to make it so it's easy for the consumer, like over in the Power Apps, to know what they're getting.
Right.
And we can actually add things in there with with like some extra documentation and so on. So let's go ahead, close that down, close this down. And in order to do that, what I'm going to do is open up the CS Proj, and then I am going to add in this guy right here. So what this is saying is it's going to go ahead and generate a documentation file for me. So it's going to let us do like // a summary and stuff like that. So it's pretty similar to what you have done before if you want to auto-generate documentation. If you're doing like IntelliSense or something like that. That's what this will allow you to do. So I'm just saying, all right, CS Project is what we want. Go ahead and do that. All right. So I'll close that out and then make sure, because I was getting that it wasn't saving for me. So let's open that back up. And for some reason, it didn't want to save. Shift F. Let's do that again. Save. What is going on?
Well, says in the bottom it's saved.
Yeah, item saved. All right. But it still was giving me the yellow. Well, that is interesting. But I'm not seeing any changes on the Git. Well. Let's just make sure here that it's not read-only or something. You think you'd have gotten an error. But all right, so we're not read-only. Nice go on, Visual Studio. Okay, so let's just move on into the startup then and assume that we'll go like this. One more try. I have an idea. And then I'm just going to see what happens if I build it real quickly. Did not save it.
Did not save it.
Wow. This is live. I shouldn't have made a joke about this being live before. All right. So that's, well, we'll just keep on moving then and pretend that we know what's happening. So in the startup file, what we're going to want to do then is, in order to make that documentation actually generate, assuming that our CS proj file would actually save, is that we go down here and we actually tell it where to generate the XML file to. So it's just saying, get me where you are and then include the comments in the path of it. So that's saved. That startup, that CS file saved. Very interesting. What is wrong with the CS proj file? All right, we'll play with that later. And finally, then what I need to do is we'll just start adding
that you have two property groups?
Let's try.
You have to put the generate and no warning and along with. I don't know.
Go like that. Nope.
No?
Huh. Weird. All right. So we're telling it right here. I have an idea how we can fix it in just a bit.
Okay.
But, we're just saying, you know what, include the XML comments here. And so the next thing we want to do is actually create some XML comments. So I'll just go back to the vendor controller over here. And then up here, we'll just do this then. Now we're going to say for that get all vendors one, for the get, we're just going to say, all right, this is going to return all the vendors in the database. And it returns a list of vendors. And on the 200, it returns a list, our list of all vendors. My documentation isn't so great, but it tells us what we're up to at least. All right, so that's saved as well. So let's actually go back into this guy. And I'm going to Control-Shift-V it again. Do this. Grab it. All right. I'm going to open it up with VS Code and see if I can, what I can do. All right, nothing like debugging on the spot.
You got it. It's real world, baby. That's why we do it live. If everything just worked perfectly, no one would believe it.
That's right. Huh, look at that.
Awesome.
Well, that must mean it's saved, right? So let's open it up again.
Yep.
Come on. And there we go. So we have it in there. It worked. I'm not sure why
perfect.
Visual Studio. I don't know. It's just okay. It doesn't matter. Let's run it again and actually see our comments come to life. All right, and so we can see like, returns all vendors in the database. That's that's neat. And the code 200 returns a list of all vendors. So now it's starting to help us learn a little bit more. Eventually, it's going to help other folks who want to use our API learn more about it.
Yep.
So which is great. That's what we're all about here. And there's more than just doing like this XML. common stuff, we can actually go to right here because we have this like this response code 200. We could also do produces response type 200. We can do that too as well and have the do it by attributes. And
There we go.
yeah, like up here we can also do to make sure produces this regular produces, I think it's application/JSON. Now we're telling it, you know what, this whole class we're going to be producing JSON as a result, just to kind of really dial it in on what we're up to.
Okay.
Here.
So Sergio had asked me to hide the Visual Studio Toolbox overlay in the upper left. I just did that, Sergio. So let me know if that worked. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. So then the other thing that it's also that we can do and to help our the users of our application out, especially if they're trying to like insert a new rating, is make sure we can actually do like things like required. All right. So now we're saying, you know what, anytime you're going to use that vendor, the ID is going to be required. Probably the same with, you know, we're not going to have a vendor rating without a rating itself. So we're going to make that required as well. So this is all, oops, we'll run this again and I'll show you where that shows up. So this is all helping out our API. So we'll go to vendor here. And you can see now that ID has that little asterisk saying that it's going to be required.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and same thing over at the vendor rating.
Yep.
So it's all helping out our everybody to know what we're up to. And on this says application JSON now for what it's returning. And which is super useful for when somebody wants to be able to use our app, which in this case is going to be Power Apps. So the next question then is we built our vendor rating API, which was super difficult because we're using in-memory API database and all that, but it's up and running. So now we want to deploy it, and we deploy it then to Azure. In this case, you don't have to deploy it to Azure, but it's going to make things. It's a nice narrative for us to do it that way. So you just go to your regular publish vendor API. You could run it through DevOps if you have that all set up, but I'm always the big fan of right-click publish, and then I'll create a whole new publish set here. So we'll just do new, and we're going to be going through the publish mechanism here to Azure. We'll publish it over to App Service Windows. All right. And so then it has my subscription name, resource group, and we're going to I already created a resource group, so we don't actually have to create all the, wait for it to provision everything. Okay. So I'm going to deploy it to VS Toolbox, show app service. So that's completely blank right now. I just created it before, so it's there. So this is the same thing as usual, as everybody's probably used to. The new thing, though, is we can actually deploy to API management as well. And so I'll show what API management is once it gets deployed, but it does exactly what you imagine. It manages APIs. And what's super cool about that is if you're used to if you had to develop an API and you were if you ever subscribe to an API to do weather service stuff, if you were pulling down a third-party API and a forecast or a zip code search, and you put that behind API management, you could do so people have to get subscriber tokens in order to get at it. You could rate limit and a whole bunch of other really neat stuff that way as well. So APIs, and there they are. I must not have set that up perfectly right because I don't have it. So what I'm going to do is for this back next, I'm just going to add a new one here. Plus, all right, vendor review API. Looks good to me. Demo test with West US. Let's call 2.
Do you need the API management service?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Let's make sure we put it in the right resource group. Show.
There we go.
There it is. And then let's call API review a show. There we go. Keep it all straight. All right. And we'll create it. All right. So we did have to actually create something. So this is usually oh, good. It went pretty quick. So now we have it over here.
Okay.
And then I can actually click just finish now. It's going to go and now create my publish profile, at which point we can just go ahead and publish everything. Publish it. And click, click, click. It should run through as we go out. Usually I use this time to maybe tell jokes. So we went. I can save the joke. All right, here we go.
Okay, we can answer a question. Harish asks how to open the Swagger doc once it's deployed.
Oh, we will show that.
All right, we will
show that. Excellent. All right. So that's actually a good question. So let's actually back up to that right now. So let's see, where do I have it? It's right here. All right. So right now, this whole Swagger document, yes, I know. Don't click on the endpoints. So this whole Swagger document generation right here is only happening when I'm in a development environment, right? So let's actually run it. So again, this is being run locally. And all right, so we have our Swagger back up. So I can do then it's going to be Swagger /v1/JSON. Or actually, you know what you could do is that it's actually going to be right here.
Oh.
And then you see it.
There we go.
So that's an easy way to get at it. So it would be the same thing if you wanted to actually publish it with your API. Just take this part, these two calls, which come with the template for Swagger for when you create up a new web API, and just drop them out of the is development if statement, and then they'll go out with you. If you already have an existing web API and you want to add Swagger and Open API to it, you still can. And it's just, you're going to have to go in through here. Let's open up packages. You're going to have to add in Swashbuckle. And then there's going to be the, once you get Swashbuckle added, you're going to have to go through and say, you know what, I want to use Swagger. I want to use Swagger API. Add that to your middleware. You're going to have to add, call up, do Swagger gen. And you can actually do some other cool things like let's see, contact equals new Open API contact. Yeah, and you can do stuff like email equals. So stuff like that, which is nice. So it'll get generated and go along with your Open API document and so on. Okay. So, yeah, so this all gets added for you with the template. Right now, the file new web API template, there's actually a checkbox that says include Open API and Swagger.
Okay.
Or you can go in and add it yourself. And we actually have documentation to show you how to actually back retrofit your existing web APIs for Swagger and Open API generation.
Cool.
So yeah, that is a quick way of saying that. And we'll actually go through and show you how you can get it out of API management as well, if you've already deployed it or not.
Right.
All right. So we have it deployed to API management and app service. So what I wanted to show, this is app service right here. And I think our endpoint would be API vendor. Yeah. And real small, but that's where everything is sitting. So we're up and running. Okay. So let's actually jump back in to our app. We let's go over here. We now have This is API management being open. So what's cool is I can actually go into API management, see my APIs, and I see my vendor review API. Now, this is actually kind of neat. You can see where this get says returns all vendors in the database. So it's actually telling me what it does because I added that, remember? Yep. And where this post is just telling me what the URL is. So, you know, going through, it kind of gives you, it's definitely worth adding that extra documentation coming out so you can see more things, what's going on. So yeah, so I can go through settings here, set things up. Like I could actually change the display name or whatnot. I'm requiring a subscription key to come through with this as well. So not just anybody could invoke it. We will need a subscription key, and I can actually go through and test it as well. Let's move this over. If I hit test, get an internal server error, because why wouldn't we? On the get, what is it saying? 500, just an internal server error. All right. How about we go through the trace? This is all good stuff. Except gzip, max and code, refer. All right. $80 query string, no. Get origin header was missing or classified was not cross deploying. CORS policy was not applied. It's always CORS, right? Always CORS. All right, so let's actually back out. This may debug on the fly here. Otherwise, I do have one that works if we don't have it. So let's just click VS Toolbox. Show app service. Slowly but surely. All right, so some reason, where's my CORS?
To allow all, use star.
Yeah, I thought that.
So is this something that you've seen before?
I have not seen this before. Yeah.
Okay. So this is just a little
live
hiccup.
Yep.
Okay.
So let's see if we can get it working. If not, we'll go back to one that I already had deployed. So back to APIs. I'm glad we tested it. Always be testing. Vendor review API to get the test.
Fuel says CORS, the nemesis of me.
Yeah. So still get it. So if I bypass the CORS proxy here during the test, does it work? Takes longer. No, the same thing. All right. So we're going to go to one I had deployed before, just called VS Toolbox.
Okay.
We'll go to the APIs, the vendor review API. I don't have the, actually, we'll go to the one I'll call VS Toolbox SAT. I should have that here. Yeah. And you can see it's the still the nice name, still in there. Now, if the test doesn't work from here, then we know that I had never tested it from here before.
Oh, I can't believe that.
All right, so let's see if this actually pulls through. Come on. Waking up the app service right now.
Okay, while we're waiting for that to happen, let me answer a question earlier from Fuel, sorry if I mispronounced that, who tried VS Preview 3, which is now available, ran into a problem during installation, and apparently this is a known issue, and you can read more about it on the blog post that I just posted. So I recommend you go check that out and learn more about it. Okay.
All right. All right. Yeah, it's the first time I hit it. So I just did this on Saturday, the exact same thing now, but everything's coming back.
Okay.
A-okay. Cool. So now I have my vendor review API. I know it's working. So I want to make it work now for Power Apps, right?
Oh, create Power Connector.
Yeah, right there.
Where did you get that from?
Yeah,
Is that built in?
Built-in API management.
Nice.
Super, super easy. Boom. Create Power Connector. Ask me what API I want. The vendor review API. It's asking me where to put it. And I'm going to give it a name. Let's call it Soucoup Vendor Tuesday Toolbox. Because there's going to be a billion of these APIs out there because we're putting it into the Microsoft personal productivity one. And so everybody that works at Microsoft has access to this. So here we go. And it's going to put my subscription key into it as a connection parameter. So it does pretty much all the work for me, which is nice. And slowly but surely we'll be able to get that out there. All right, cool.
Excellent.
So successfully exported. Soucoup Vendor Tuesday Toolbox. All right, back out to the Power Apps, the maker, to make.powerapps.com. So I'm going to close this Power App up. And then what I'm going to do to actually go see it, I'm going to go over to the Data tab and then down to Custom Connectors.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually going to take a little bit to load up. So now I can tell my joke. So Robert, there was a photon traveling, through the airport, and it was going through security, and the TSA agent asked him where all his luggage was, and he says, "Well, I don't have any. I'm traveling light." Get it? Get it? All right.
That's actually a joke where you don't have to be a physics expert to get it. Yes.
Yeah.
That's nice. All right.
All right. Oh, still spinning. Come on.
Give us a quick overview of what the requirements are to get up and started with this. So, if I want to do this in my company or if I want to play around with this myself,
that.
Is there a developer account, developer edition? How do you play around with this stuff?
Yep. So there is a Power Apps Developer Edition. And there's also a Power Apps, I think if you're on the M365 Business subscription or above. So it doesn't work with the family. M365 family, no.
Okay.
But anything else and above will work for it.
Got it.
And then you can just start messing around with it. But the developer subscription it's like a community-based free subscription. It's like Visual Studio Community, but for Power Apps.
Got it.
All right. So this is the one.
There it is.
All right. So we'll just go hit this little edit button. So this is my connector. And what a connector does, it describes, it kind of acts as a wrapper around our connection back to, in this case, API management. Mm-hmm. But what we want to do is actually create a connection then. So connector does the wrapping. A connection actually has like the API key in it, if that makes any sense. So we can go through and we can actually see everything here. So we know we're going to do an API key. If I can edit it, eventually it's going to go in there. Definition, I can see all that, which is nice. I can see that we're going to do a post. We're going to do a get. We can see my references here and all that, which is nice. So as I mentioned before, all right, as a citizen developer, I can see what this is all going to do for me. It's going to return all the vendors in the database. Whereas that one before, it just says API/rating. And so this is going to come in handy later for when I'm going to see these two little functions come up later when we actually start coding. All right, so code is in here, how I would use it, and then I could actually test it too by creating this new connection. So let's do that. New connection. Come on. Here we go. And then I have to enter the subscription key, which comes from API management. We'll do show hide keys, copy the clipboard. And don't worry, I'll be deleting all my resources after this, so I'm not leaking anything. Paste it in there, click create, and it's going to actually go through and add my connection for me. And so there we go. So I'm going to assume the connection worked fine. Then I could actually go through and test it if I wanted. But let's go back to the Power App itself. Back to apps here. And then let's see, vendor toolbox vendor test. That's me. Oops. And I actually ran it. I don't want to run it. I want to edit it. So click it, then you hit the edit button. All right. So now we can actually start playing around with it. And so this is actually pretty easy then to make it work. Once it loads up, waiting is the hardest part here. All right, so here we go. What's neat on Power is it is a lot like a WYSIWYG designer, where you remember Front Page way back when, the web designer?
Yes.
Kind of drag and drop controls. Well, it's a lot like that, except it works way better. So like I could drag this button control onto the screen, and then it gives me a bunch of properties for it. Like I can change the hover border color and all that stuff. On select is an event. It's like your click event. And so then, actually, let me back up. I need to add my data to it. So the data in this case is going to be my custom connector, which is going to be down over here underneath connectors. And so what I'm going to search for then is Soucoup. So Soucoup vendor Tuesday toolbox. Add that in. Double click. It's going to add that in. And now I have access to it in my app. Cool. Back to my load data on select. What I'm going to do is just type in so this is where we're going to get from our low code. It's not exactly no code, but I'm going to do clear collect, which is going to say clear collection. And so I'm going to say vendors, and then I'm going to say vendor review API. You see how the IntelliSense is popping that up for me?
Yes.
It knows about it already. Then dot.
Oh, nice.
Get vendor API, close that off, and there I go. So what's cool here, clear collection, and I just decided to initialize this vendor, so I didn't have to declare it elsewhere in my app. Here, and you see it popped in down here too underneath my data.
Right.
It's kind of neat that it just kind of takes care of all that for you. And as I mean, when you're used to like C# and such, you want to initially create that collection. You want to declare it somewhere, but you don't have to. So error. Oh yeah, that's fine.
What was the error?
Well, the error. So what Microsoft does, it doesn't want you. It wants me to get this vendor review API approved by Microsoft IT before I can save the app.
Oh,
so it's not. It's just a Microsoft.
Don't they know who you are?
Yeah, I know. They should. They should. But yeah. So that's all that's doing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can't hit save. So here, this is just a vertical gallery. So it's like a list view, and it shows. All right, where do you want this? What you want to have a data source? I'll pick vendors. That's cool. And then within here, and I can go back to this tree view, I see my vendor gallery. We're getting some.
Yeah, it's because they know who he is.
Yeah, there it is. And I can do something like this. Let's just say, I think it's going to be this one. I can say over here, I'll just say this item dot, and it's going to be, how about we do name? So you see how that popped up? this item being the current item in the vendor review, and I have .id or .name, and I'll say .name. That's cool. And so let's actually make it work. And I'm going to hit down, I'm on a Mac here, so I'm going to hit down the Alt button, and then I can actually click on the load data. It's going to go out. You can see it's working up here, and it brings it all back.
Look at that.
Yeah. And I don't even have to do anything, right?
Awesome.
So yeah, isn't that super cool? And I have another little label in here, label that one. Yeah, yeah, we know. And what I can do here then is actually do something like this. I'll do AVG rating. This is like a little bit of Visual Basic with the ampersand to do concatenation. Let's do this item dot ratings dot or comma rating. We're just saying what's your average rating here. Put that in there. Cool. So this items has that ratings collection or array on it, and then I'm just going to average. That's my collection. I want to average the individual rating for it. Yeah. So neat. All right. So the next thing I want to do then is whenever I select this one for Cog City, I'm going to want to see all of the ratings there, right?
Yep.
So what I'm going to do here is this is gallery number 3 that I have it. And so what I can do then for the items here, what I can just say is just vendor gallery. So that's what I named this one over here, where my vendor names are, vendor gallery. Vendor gallery dot, it's going to be vendor gallery dot, what is it going to be? Selected dot ratings. That's what it's going to be. So if I alt it, that, oh, of course I should actually populate things in there. So we'll do that one, and we'll just do this item dot review. Like that, so it's saying it's good. And then we'll just say this item dot rating. And it all pops in right away. So this is really going great for us. And then finally we can enter, we know. We can enter a new rating as well. So down here we have a little star rating. So I'm calling that, let's close this up. I'm calling that this little star rating box here. It's called vendor rating. Enter a rating review. This should just say review. So let's actually enter your review. There, and then I can add the new rating. Cool. So this one, this on select button here, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to say vendor review API dot host API rating. Cool. And I'm going to say, now this is a little bit weird here. I'm actually going to send what looks like JSON. So vendor ID colon, so vendor gallery dot selected dot ID. All right. Rating is going to be vendor rating dot value. And then finally review is going to be rating review text dot, that's I think text. And there we go.
Okay, so this is low code. It's certainly not no code.
It's just not no code. Yeah, you have to know what you're up against here.
But you are, if you're a citizen developer, you are a developer, so you're gonna have to learn some code.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So let's actually change this up. So I'll hit my Alt button. So I'm gonna do factory train. Let's select factory train. And so everything's 1, 2, and 3. Yep.
Okay.
We'll make it 5 reviews. I'll go in here. And I'll actually just change the text here to be. Let's see if it lets me run it, huh? All right, it'll let me run it. Factory train, 5 stars. My review, best review ever. add new rating. Goes out. It's doing stuff. There's like little dots up there if you can see it or not. Opening up my API, came back, and come on. It didn't work. Of course
you
it
have to
didn't.
reload the data?
Oh, yeah. That's probably a good idea. And
There
it
we
goes.
go.
Thank you. Reload data. So now we were down to 275.
All
Or we
right.
went up to 275. Best review ever.
There's probably a way to automatically have it reload the data.
There is. Yeah. So we can go like this, and you can actually string things together. If I would do colon, I can do clear collect vendors, and then do vendor review API. Vendor review API. Get vendor. Let's make it bigger, like that. Now it's pretty much just strung two together like that. Cool. So let's go to Cog City. We'll give it a 1 star. Go through, add it. We can see Cog City then went down to 1.75 real quick.
Yeah.
And although not the best review ever, 1 star. Still, there
well,
we go.
Maybe they thought 1 was good and 5 was
bad. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's super. I mean,
that is awesome.
Super cool. Yeah, and that's really how you put it together, assuming that your professional developer can actually deploy something. Okay. So, yeah, but what I wanted to show off real quickly, I know we're kind of running short on time here, so we won't actually get to integrate it, is so if I wanted to actually see the Open API document, if I go to APIs, open that up, I can then do, instead of create Power Connector, I could export it. And it shows me, I can just go to Open API v2, which downloads it for me here. This one. It's going to open it in Xcode. Come on. And so the reason why I did version 2, always Xcode. All right, so let's just say we'll go like this. The reason why it did cancel downloads, and we'll go to this one. Yes, of course I do.
Do you trust yourself?
Yeah. Let's make it bigger. So the reason you do 2.0 is because that's the one that Power works with right now. It doesn't work with Open API 3.0.
Okay.
But what's cool here, it kind of goes through and you can tell, all right, it's going to work with HTTPS. It's going to do it needs a subscription key coming into the header, or maybe coming into the query key, and it shows me my paths as well. So that's cool, what it can all take in. So it's going to take in a rating, API rating on a post. And for my get, you can see it has the description on there too.
Nice.
Yeah, all neat. And one last thing that we can actually do real quickly is, do I have my caps lock on? Is do this as well, and I'll just do the one I had open. So I won't create it from scratch. Is we can actually create an Azure function now that has Open API support in it as well. So this is all part of there's a new template for it. We're going to just do new Azure function with Open API support. And then there's a bunch of decorators like this that come with it. So we're going to say get all vendors for vending stuff, put a summary on it. You can describe the response that's coming back, all of the vendors. And if we run it here, so this is a long way of saying that we're not just limited to running a regular API, ASP.NET API. We can also run an Azure function, which is cheaper than if you didn't need it all up and running right away. So let me actually copy that out. and then paste that into here. Now this is my Azure function running through the same Swigger tooling that we had before. So I just had a Seattle vendor and a Redmond vendor.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's super neat. And then it's just, I can go to Swagger. It can just be swagger.json. And I can actually go through and actually see my JSON, my Open API document itself, which I can then use to import it. So I don't need to go through API management to create a connector either. I could just go right from Azure Functions if I wanted to. And actually, I could go through in Power Apps. Let's just do file close. It's going to yell at me probably. I could have created a connector here. Custom connectors. When it comes up, there's going to be on the upper right-hand corner, there will be a drop-down new custom connector. And I can create it just from a file or from a URL. So it doesn't necessarily need to be done for me through Azure API management. Although that's a super easy, happy path to go.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pop up. I know we're running low on time, but this is a great place for people to learn more, aka.ms/learn-fusion dev. I think that takes you to the learning path, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yep. So to sum up, you build web API, which you already know how to do, and then it's just really straightforward to get those into Power Apps.
Yeah.
And of course, you got to learn Power Apps. You got to learn the low code involved, but it seems pretty straightforward. But this opens up really exciting opportunities, I think, for .NET developers to get additional apps built without having to be on the hook for the whole thing from start to finish.
That's right. That's right. And another good one is if you wanted to upgrade an old application, like we were talking before, Robert, like an old web forms app. You don't want to have to support web forms anymore, a really old legacy app. Make it a Power App if you can. And as you've seen, it's easier. Like that Power FX language is it's Excel like that you can get up and running with.
Yep.
So
awesome. So I don't think we have any outstanding questions. So this is great stuff. Thanks so much, Matt, for coming on and showing this to us. And I absolutely think this is something that people should go check out and see how they like it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Robert. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. And if anybody's had any questions, feel free to get me up at CodeMillMatt on Twitter. Love talking about this stuff. So,
all right. Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we will see you next time on Visual Studio Toolbox.